Hey, it's Mr. Blais. We're getting into some fun digital art today. I'm going to take you over to Google Drive, and we're going to create a fun landscape based on this game I call Alto's Odyssey. The previous version was Alto's Adventure. If you're looking for a super fun, chill, relaxing game to take the edge off, check this out. Just a shameless plug for the game. I get no credit. But that's our inspiration for the game, and or not for the game, sorry, for our project. So what we're going to do is we're going to head over to Google Drive, and then we're going to scroll down. A lot of people don't even know. I just showed a student today where Google Drawing was. Didn't even know. So you click on, again, just to get there, you click on New, and then you go to More and Google Drawings. Once you're here, I recommend putting a title on your drawing. So I'm just going to put in Mr.Blais' Adventures. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go down to File, Page Setup, and then select 16 by 9. That'll make it a little wider, give us a little more real estate to work with. Click Apply. Now, what I like to do is when you see this checkerboard pattern, that means it's clear. Think of a piece of glass. So we want to add some color. So you just right click or on a trackpad, 2-finger tap on a Chromebook. And I'm going to go with a gradient. And you can do a custom gradient, or you could just select something from here like that. It doesn't matter. Control Z will undo that. I'm going to try a different back. I'll show you how to do a gradient and select a custom. And then here, all you have to do is make sure you're on linear. There's also radial, which means it'll be darker on the edges, kind of like a vignette. You can change your angles. I won't mess with that. To change the color, we're starting over here. It's highlighted. Select that dot. I'm going with kind of, we'll go with a blue theme. So I'll start with maybe kind of like this here. And I'll change this one to my lightest. So we'll stick in that blue frame. We'll go maybe up to here. I could make it even a little lighter. Let's see, we make it a little lighter. There we go. All right, so it's kind of lightest at the bottom, kind of a fade or ombre up to the top. You can add in different colors, kind of get a rainbow of colors in here too. Then the big thing is the tools we're going to use. So you're going to head over to this toolbar here where the line is. You see a tiny little drop down here. Select line. Curve and Polyline are the two tools I'm going to show you how to use today. They're going to be your best friends. I'll invite you over and have a snack. So we're going to start by just clicking. Just play around with it to get started. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of, I'll go down here in the lighter area. Just click and then make a closed shape. Go back to where you started. Now, here, the default colors for the fill are shown here. That's your fill color. To change that, you can go in here and change the color, gradient, and all that. There's also a line color here. So if you change that to transparent, I think that's what I'm going to use here. It gives a nice flat 2D look, which is like Alto's Adventure. Now, from this part here, if you want to double click, you can come back and edit the purple points. Sometimes it's a little tricky to get to these, but just put your cursor right on the crosshair and it'll show you where it is. Then you click off and then you're good to go. You can even resize to make it smaller, rotate it to get in the position you want. It's up to you. And you can also copy it and make a duplicate of that and then just kind of enlarge that one. So you can kind of base it and create lots of stuff just doing that. One thing I want to note here with using these tools is when you're using the Polyline tool, if you click, and I double click, or if I click the lines too close, the points too close together, it will create a line, and that will not have a fill in it. So be careful of doing that. And then my other favorite tool is the curve tool. You go like click, and here, what this does, at every point, it creates a curve. Every click is a new curve. And again, you can double click these and edit those points as well. And also copy and resize those. All right, guys. Now, a few more things before we get going with making our Alto's Odyssey or Alto's Adventure inspired landscape in Google Drawing. I wanted to direct your attention, just to remind you, over here you can remove that border by selecting that little pen or pencil icon up here. And you can also select fill color and then select custom. And if you'd like to play around with the transparency of something, like specifically the color, you can change the color, but just reducing the transparency. You select custom, and then you adjust the transparency slider, so you can get a slightly different color by just adjusting that transparency slider. So it allows for a lot of options. If you wanted to layer different shapes to get different colors, you could do that. So I took this color over the top, and I wanted to have a different transparency for this. Select the object, select custom, slide the transparency slider to the left. Far left would be completely transparent, like a piece of glass, and somewhere in the middle would allow you kind of a subtle variation of the two. So now you're seeing like the one shape below coming through on the shape above, and that can create some really cool effects as you go. So going forward, just keep that in mind to adjust as you see fit. First thing I'm going to do for our landscape is I'm going to select this Polyline tool, one of my favorite tools, and we're going to go ahead, and you can get an idea, just have an image up here. I'm going to be creating this background, this really light background in there, and I can play around the transparency on it. So let's go ahead and use that Polyline tool. Select the drop down, Polyline, and then we're just going to just kind of click wherever you think it should start. And remember, don't try not to double click too close. Remember, this will be kind of a lighter value, because when things are lighter, they will be more in the background. As things become darker in value, they will be more in the foreground. Atmospheric perspective, I guess you'd call that. All right, there we go. Now we're going to come over and deselect transparent. And we're going to go ahead and kind of stay within our color scheme, which I believe was somewhere over here. We're going to maybe change it just slightly different blue. Let's go ahead and speed this up. All right, now we have our background set in place. And now you can work on the next closest layer. We'll work on adding some of these kind of little mountains or mini castles. If you want to add extra castles, you can. But I'm thinking working the background and then working our way forward. So let's go ahead and see if you'd like to add a few kind of mini little hills in here. Now we're going to see if we can add some minor gradients to these. So we can just select the mountain we're going to use, and we're going to select gradient, and we're going to select custom, and we're going to add in the colors that we've been using. So we'll say somewhere around here, change this to a lighter blue. Alright, there we have some neat little gradients there. And now what we're going to look to do is, if you look over here, we're going to see if we can kind of start adding in the castle. Or actually, let's go ahead and add some more background. Let's go ahead and add these balloons in. I like the idea of adding balloons in. You could add stars and other things. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But we're going to go ahead and use the curve tool, which is probably one of my favorite tools. And this is going to be a little hard to see here, but I am using it. I'm just clicking. And you're just trying to create a nice hot air balloon sort of shape, which is kind of like a teardrop. I might suggest making it a little bit bigger to start, and then coming back in. All right, we're back, and now we're going to work on adding some more balloons. I have a basic balloon here. I'm going to edit the shape a little bit, kind of make some minor adjustments here. And then what I'd like to do is, I don't want it that big, so I'm just going to shrink it by grabbing it from the corner and holding the shift button. And you could even make it a little small. That's pretty cool. And now I'm going to get rid of this border here. I'm going to make that transparent. You know, you could leave that balloon like this, or you could kind of change the color a little bit. It's not in the same color scheme. There we go. If you want to play around with some gradients, feel free. We can come in and add like a neat little gradient here. I think I'm just going to keep it kind of simple here. And you could also add in a little basket. Before I'm going to do that, I'm just going to copy. I'm going to do a couple of these. Make a couple little balloons, and what I'm going to do is shrink them and have a few different size balloons, kind of give the illusion of space on here. You can put them at different heights, make them really small if you want, like that. There we go. And if you want, another tool that I didn't really show, but if you want, you can use just the plain line tool, and you can create a basket in here. But before we do the line tool, I'm just going to do a simple basket here. And something like that. Now we have our hot air balloons in here. One thing I did realize is that when you're working with lines in Google Drawing is that you can't adjust. You can make them transparent, but you can't use the slider to adjust the transparency like you can when you're on the paint bucket of a solid object. So if I hit custom here, I can adjust the transparency. And on my lines, I cannot do that. So just one thing to keep in mind. And again, Control-Alt+ zooms you right in where you need to go. So if I want to get really close in there to make sure my lines are just touching, like this one's a little off here. So I'm just going to slide that in. Control-Alt+, or Command-Alt+, I think, is the Mac version. I'm on PC right now. But you can kind of fine-tune the positions and use the sliders here to rotate that position there, adjust. You can get as close as you need to, and the closer you get in there, the more you can adjust. All right, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to work on adding some mountains in here in the foreground, the darker ones. You could add more layers. You could have a middle layer, which I might add right now, and then I'm going to add one more in the up close. And as the layers come closer to you, I'm going to make them darker. That's kind of an atmospheric or landscape perspective. So let me go ahead and speed this portion up. And all I'm doing is using this Polyline tool to create the mountains. Okay, now that I have the base for where the mountain's going to go in the middle, this is going to house my castle. At this point, you could Google image search some ideas of castles that you'd like to recreate. You could also just make your own. But I'm, kind of looking at this for an idea. So have fun with this part and use the Polyline tool. Feel free to come in here and use any of the shape tools as well if that's easier for you. But I'm just going to freehand mine. And again, I'm just going to speed this part up. Be creative. Have fun with this part. All right, we're back. Now we have our simple mountain with castle on top. I made kind of like an old style castle. You could add little stones on there and whatnot, but I'm keeping it super simple. And I really like the idea of the waterfall in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make a little waterfall in the middle here, coming down. You could use the Polyline tool or the curve tool. It's really personal preference. You could use the scribble tool to add some like ripples in the water. I'll leave that up to you, but I'm just going to kind of zoom in here, Control Alt plus, and so I can see the full area of the waterfall. Almost said water slide. And I'm just going to add that in. I'm going to start, let's say it's coming right about here. Okay, now that I've added some trees in using the Polyline tool, I'm going to add in a few extra features. I'm going to add in a couple clouds over here using the curve tool, and then I'm going to use this circle tool here, and I'm going to play around with transparencies to kind of achieve like a sunrise or moonrise or whatever you want to call it in the background of sunset. Okay, so here we go. Speed this up. Alright, just one little tip to insert text. You're going to click on the text box, and drag it out where you want it. Then you can select any text that you want. So feel free to choose a text that represents you. You can type in a word that, like the name of your game, the name of your whatever you want to put in here that represents your image. But have fun choosing a font, and that's all I'm going to do right now, and then we're done.